Hi there, friends. It's your friendly neighborhood Sunshine Squirrel. Welcome to the channel. Today we are talking about one of my favorite topics, and that is Disney Cruise Line. Recently, I went on my first ever Disney cruise and I had an absolutely amazing time. And while on the cruise, there were a lot of things that I learned and some things that I wish that I knew before I had boarded the ship. So I thought it would be really helpful if I came on here today and shared some of those tips for you and your family when you plan to cruise with Disney next. So make sure you should grab a snack, grab a notepad, take some notes, and let's get right into it. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is everything that you should know about Disney Cruise Line before you get on the boat. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit and start it off as if you already have your cruise booked, you know your departure date, you know where you're headed to. So as soon as you book your Disney cruise, that's just the first step. And the first thing, especially if you've never cruised before, is that typically you're going to go on different ports of call for your cruise. So with Disney Cruise, very frequently, if you do one of the cruises that departs out of Miami or Port Canaveral, you're going to be heading to maybe the Bahamas, Jamaica, the Caribbean. And in order to disembark from your ship, once you get to those islands, you're going to need to prove your American citizenship. Now, even if you're not planning on leaving the boat and you're just going to stay on board the ship for those ports of calls, you still have to have proof of your U.S. citizenship. So in order to do that, the simplest way is to get a passport card. If you don't want to do that, there are other forms of documentation that you can bring for your cruise, such as a birth certificate, or if you're from Puerto Rico, there are different documentations you can bring as well. But check the Disney website, and I'll put a link below where you can check out the full list of approved documents. But just know that a driver's license alone is not going to cut it for proof of citizenship. Sidebar I do want to throw out there, guys, is that it is taking a very long time for passports to come these days. So make sure that you're applying for your passport well in advance, months in advance of your Disney cruise. I was a little bad when I went on my Disney cruise and I applied for my passport really late. I did pay for expedited shipping, but I'll tell you guys, I got my passport 5 days before I was supposed to board the ship. So don't be like me. Be responsible. Apply early. If you get a little bit later start, maybe consider spending the extra money to get the expedited shipping, but be early. Don't procrastinate. All right. So the next thing that you're going to want to do is download the Disney Cruise Line app onto your smart device. Now, once you're out at sea, there's no Wi-Fi except if you pay for it, but the Disney Cruise Line app still works. And within the app, you can actually message members of your party. So it's kind of like a built-in text message service. It's also going to have the daily itinerary for you and your party, and it's going to list out all of the ship's activities. And you can even book dining reservations, shopping, and port calls right through the Cruise Line app. So you're absolutely going to want to download it. You also will upload your proof of U.S. citizenship as well as a photo of yourself and all members of your party into the Cruise Line app or going to disneycruiseline.com. You will be able to check in for your cruise 30 days prior to your departure date. And you guessed it, you're going to check in through the Disney Cruise Line app. It's really important, like we talked about first, to focus on getting that documentation, because in order to check in, you need to upload your proof of U.S. citizenship as well as a photo. So I'll give you guys from my own personal experience, because I didn't have my passport when the 30 days came around to check in. I had a really late check-in time, and because of that, it made my port arrival time and also my boarding time for the cruise ship really late in the day. So if you want to be able to board the cruise ship a lot sooner on the day, you're definitely going to want to log in as soon as you can. So right when it hits 30 days, and I mean at midnight is when it unlocks for you to check in. Now, be aware that if there are other guests that have cruised with Disney Cruise Line before, silver, gold, they are going to have an earlier cruise time than you, even if you log in exactly at 12. It's kind of like a loyalty or a reward program that Disney offers for being a frequent cruiser. So keep that in mind, but still log in as soon as you can and get there early. Now, another thing that you're going to want to think about when you're planning on going on your cruise is that you're going to want to bring cash and cards. And the reason I say this is because when you log into the Disney Cruise Line app, it's going to ask you to upload a card that you want to use for stateroom charges. Now, when you are on the ship though, you're going to encounter many cast members where you're going to want to give them a tip. And typically on the last night of your cruise, you're going to be given a series of envelopes where you can write messages to your different attendants, your wait staff, as well as your stateroom attendant. And then there's even an envelope where you can leave a tip. Now you can pay for tips ahead of time and take care of that. And typically with Disney Cruise Line now, it is something that they automatically require when you sign in and check in. But a lot of times, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, from our recent cruise, our everyone that we encountered, all of our cast members that we had, our stateroom attendant, our waiter, our assistant waiter, everyone was fantastic that we decided to do an additional tip. And if you're sitting poolside and you have a cast member bring you a drink, or maybe you just have an amazing cast member that helps you with something, or the individuals at the port, the porters that take your luggage, from the bus, there are other people that you're going to want to have cash available on you in order to tip. I will say though that when you are on board the ship, there's pretty much not a whole lot of cash purchases. They really want you to use a card or to charge it to your room. In particular, if you go shopping on Castaway Cay, which is Disney's private island in the Bahamas, you cannot use cash and you can't use cards. Everything is charged directly to your room. So you're going to want to make sure that you add a credit card onto your room, that you have the amount of money that you need for all of your purchases. You can set a card limit, so that can be a good, balanced way or budget friendly way to keep yourself from overspending, but just be aware that you do have to have a credit card uploaded to your stateroom account. All right, another thing, and let's talk a little bit, about packing. As far as clothes go on the cruise, I didn't know what to expect, guys. I'd always heard that when people cruise, they want to dress up, they want to look really nice. And I will say that there were people on the cruise that did look very nice. And I will say that I brought dresses and I dressed up. But it's a Disney cruise, so it's family friendly. So don't feel like you have to wear a dress or an evening gown. There are some adult dining only options where you absolutely have to dress up. Just like at, if you go to Disney World, like Victoria and Albert's, there is a dress code at some restaurants. But overall, when I was on the cruise, I saw lots of people with shorts, flip-flops, button downs, t-shirts, you name it. I would recommend to bring layers though. I would say during the evenings and nighttime up on top deck and where the main pools are and the movies are showed, there's lots of wind and it can get kind of cold. And for all my girls out there, you're definitely going to want to wear longer dresses or wear leggings underneath, because those wind gusts come on that top deck and you're like holding it down. And so just be aware, you're definitely going to want to bring layers and probably even a light jacket for those windy nights. Now, something else that I will say is that for my family and I, we flew in for our cruise. We flew into Miami and then we took Disney transportation from Miami International Airport to our port of call. And I would encourage you guys that if you're considering that, you absolutely need to book that way in advance. You can book that once again through the Disney Cruise Line app or through Disney Cruise Line website, and you can book one-way or both-way transportation, two-way. We booked two-way transportation, and it was really nice because from the moment we arrived at the airport, we met Disney Cruise Line in baggage claim, and then we went on the bus and they took care of our luggage and everything. So it was a very seamless process and it really made getting to the port simpler. Now, I will say I was a little jealous of some other people that drove because they were able to bring like cases of water and snacks and food onto the cruise ship. So be aware that, if you are driving, you may want to consider bringing some of your favorite snacks, bottled water, things like that onto the cruise ship with you. Of course, on the cruise ship, so much food and so many beverages and treats and snacks are included, but things like, bottled water, maybe if anyone in your party has certain specific, maybe they really like strawberry Fanta or something like that. Like there are certain things that you're just not going to be able to find. So just keep that in mind. If you have that availability, access to a car, you may want to consider stopping by the store. So we've been kind of talking about, packing and documentations, but now let's talk about what you should know when you finally make it to your port. So let's say that you took Disney transportation or you drove, you're finally there, you see your Disney cruise ship, you're all excited to get on. Now, be aware when you get to your port of call, you are not going to be able to keep your main luggage with you. You're going to hand that off to porters, and the porters are not Disney cast members. They're a private company that handles the luggage. And be aware that once you hand off that luggage, you are not going to see it until your room is ready. And typically, your stateroom is not going to be ready when you board your cruise ship. So make sure that you keep valuables, documentation, that proof of citizenship, credit cards, money, medications with you instead of handing that off in your luggage. So you're definitely going to want to keep a backpack or maybe even like a small carry-on rolling suitcase to keep all of your family members' documentations and things in. And keep in mind as well that once you get on the cruise ship, you have access to all of the activities on board. So you may even want to consider keeping a swimsuit with you, a change of clothes, so that you can hit up the aqueduct before everybody else. So typically when you check in, you will be given your port arrival time, and this is when you are allowed to officially come to the port where your Disney cruise ship is. And once there, you're going to go through security, and then you're going to check in with Disney. So you're going to present your proof of US citizenship again, along with a photo. And this is important, guys, because Disney's trying to, one last time, make sure that you have your proof of citizenship. So even if you've uploaded your citizenship to the app, still bring that passport book, still bring that passport card, still bring that birth certificate. You have to have it digitally and a hard copy. And then once you arrive at the port, you checked in, then you'll head upstairs and you'll sit in a little waiting room. In that waiting room, you will wait for your boarding time. Typically, the boarding groups are 1 through 30, and you'll see that every 5 to 10 minutes, starting at around 11 a.m., they'll begin to call. So they'll say, boarding group 1, you're now welcome to board. Boarding group 2, you're now welcome to board, and so on and so forth. Now, like I said, for me, guys, I had a super late check-in. I think my boarding group was like 26 out of 30. And so when it hit 25, they were just like, everybody else, get on board. And thankfully, initially my boarding time said that I wasn't going to get on the ship until 2:55, and the ship departs at 3:45. And I was like, oh man, like I'm probably gonna miss I'm gonna miss all the activities. I'm gonna miss the buffet. I'm gonna miss all these things. But no, I was on this ship by 1:30. So I just want to let you guys know, Disney pretty much gets everyone on the ship within 2 hours. So keep that in mind. And also know that if you are arriving a little bit late and your boarding group has already been called, you can still get on this ship. But be aware, when they say the ship leaves at 3:45, it leaves at 3:45. It's not waiting for you. All right, so now let's talk about everything that you need to know once you're officially aboard your Disney cruise ship. So this is the most exciting part, right? You're walking on board, they announce your family's name, all the cast members are applauding you, and you walk into this grandiose lobby. There's music playing, you see all these fellow families, they're enjoying themselves. What should you do first? Well, the first thing I would recommend is make a beeline to guest services and sign up for any port adventures or special dining experiences that you really want to make sure you want to do. Now, like I said before, if you download the Disney Cruise Line app, you can book events and port adventures prior to stepping foot on the cruise ship. However, for myself, I know there was an event that I really wanted to participate in, and when I logged into the app, there was no availability. But I heard that if you go to guest services, a lot of times they can make some Disney magic. And let me just say, the cast members did, and we were able to participate in the princess gathering and meet all of our favorite Disney princesses. So it pays to ask, guys. So definitely make sure you go to guest services first. A lot of times they're able to squeeze you in, even if things are fully booked. Right. Now, the second thing you're going to want to do once you're on the Disney cruise ship is shopping. Now, I know some of you out there are thinking, well, I don't want to spend all my money the first night. Well, I'm just going to let you guys know, once you are on your cruise ship, there is no restocking. So if you have to get a certain pair of Mickey ears, if you have to get a certain t-shirt or sweatshirt, you are going to want to get it the first night, because I'm telling you guys, the first night, those shopping center, like the shopping area on the Disney cruise ship is packed. People are loading up their carts, getting everything that they want to get. And so pro tip, guys, once the shops open, it's typically between 5 and 6 p.m. It's once you're officially out at sea. So something I will let you guys know as well is that none of the shopping stores are open on the cruise ships when they're officially docked at port. They can only be open once they're out at sea. So once they're out at sea and they open up those shops, go down and get your souvenirs. Now, another pro tip I'll tell you, it goes back to the Disney Cruise Line app, is that you can actually purchase merchandise through the app and have it delivered to your room before even stepping foot on the cruise. So once again, if there's a certain item that you absolutely have to have, or you want to make sure your little ones get their Minnie Mouse ears, you can have it waiting for them so that when they walk in the room, they already have their souvenirs sitting on their bed. I know for my sister and I, we had a surprise in our room, and I don't know, it added to the fun and, just the Disney magic of like, oh, we already have a gift here. So just something to consider. You don't have to purchase through the app if you don't want to, but just keep that in mind. So your first night aboard Disney Cruise Line, there is the sail away party. Now, I would say this is a must do. If this is your first ever Disney cruise, you need to go to the sail away party, okay? All of your favorite Disney characters, well, I shouldn't say all, the Fab Five are going to be there, okay? And I mean, they're pretty awesome, right? And there's going to be singing and dancing, and it's going to get you all pumped up and ready to cruise. And then you're going to get to hear the music and the horn, and you have to go to the sail away party, okay? I will give you guys a little inside scoop that I probably wouldn't do it again, but if it's your first ever time cruising with Disney Cruise Line, you got to do it. It's a must do. But I would say if it's your second, third, fourth cruise, maybe think about hitting up more popular attractions on the ship, like the Aqueduct, or check out the Oceaneers Club, because all the kids clubs are open that very first night for anybody of all ages. So if you've always wanted to see what all the fun the kids have on the cruise, that is your night. So talk about typically day 2, day 3. I did a 4-day cruise. And so basically day 2 or 3, depending upon where you're going, you're typically going to have a day where you go to one of the islands or islands. And then you're also going to have a day when you go to Castaway Cay, which, like I said before, is Disney's exclusive island. Now, you can book port adventures directly through your Disney Cruise Line app or visiting guest services. I chose to do that, and I did a guided tour through the Bahamas. It was really nice. It was actually in a van, and we had a local who was our tour guide, drove us all around, showed us all these really cool sites. We checked out some caves where pirates once lived, and there were even bats, and then we went to a beach. So I was really happy with it, and I would say I had more of a sense of security because I was doing a port adventure through Disney. And one of the nice things about booking directly through them is that you have the guarantee that you're not going to miss the ship. And that was something that I was so nervous about. And like, you hear of all these crazy stories of people not making it to the cruise ship in time. But that's not to say that you can't do your own thing. So if you have visited these islands before and you know where to go, or you know what you want to do, feel free to. But I would encourage you guys, if you're like me and it was like your first time visiting an island, you may want to consider just letting Disney kind of handle that work for you so that you can just enjoy yourself there and not have to be stressed about all the little details. But if you're not interested in debarking and going off and exploring, this is a great time to utilize other features and activities aboard the ship. Every single day, there are tons of fun things for you guys to do. There's trivia, there's bingo, there's pools, there's water slides, there's movies. And on the Disney Cruise Line ships, they show current Disney movies that are in the theater for free. There's even, of course, I was going to say there's even, you guys know, there's Broadway style shows as well. Now, none of those Broadway shows are going to be when you're actually like supposed to be at a port adventure. So don't be afraid, you won't miss them. But there are tons of activities to do aboard the ship and then off of the ship as well. Now, a little bit about Castaway Cay. So like I said before, this is Disney's exclusive island in the Bahamas. One activity that's really popular to do on this island is the 5K. You no longer have to register or sign up for it in advance. You actually go to the island, you complete the runaround at your own time and at your own pace, and at the end of it, you get your medal. So it's kind of nice that you no longer have to get on the island super early. You can get there whenever you want, and you can take as long as you want. Another thing to know about Castaway Cay is that there are still some wildlife that are on the beaches. I went to Serenity Bay, which is the adults only section of the beach. And if you are an adult and a Disney adult and you're on Disney Cruise Line, you are absolutely going to want to check out Serenity Bay. The thing to keep in mind on all of the beaches on Castaway Cay is that there is a net to prevent larger wildlife from getting onto the beaches, so you and your family can swim with comfort. But just know that there are still some wildlife that are able to get through. When we were there were definitely small little fish like minnows. At one time, there was even a school of like fairly large fish that kind of swam through the beach. And then there was even a guest that was kind of further out from the water and told me that they saw like tiny little stingrays and things like that kind of further out. So just be aware, if you're a little bit afraid of wildlife and things like that, you may want to stick into the shallows, or you may even want to consider just using the pools and things like that. But I just want to make you guys aware. Now, another thing to keep in mind while you're on board your cruise ship is that you can use Disney PhotoPass. You can sign up for PhotoPass before, once again, using the Disney Cruise Line app, or when you go to special events and activities, if they have a PhotoPass photographer, they'll give you a little card, and then you'll see there's actually a little section on the ship where they have an area where you can scan your card, view your photos, and decide if you want to purchase them or purchase a pack. Now let's talk about the moment that I'm sure a lot of you have been waiting for, and that is everything that you should know about dining aboard Disney Cruise Line. Now, every single night, you are going to have the opportunity to participate in rotational dining. So you are going to dine in a different restaurant every single night, depending upon the length of your cruise. Now, if your cruise is longer, you probably are going to have some repeats, but if you're typically doing a 3-night, 4-night cruise, 3-night cruise is going to be a different one every night. 4-night, you're going to have one repeat. And you don't really get a choice in which option you go through a second time. But typically, like on our cruise, it was a 4-night cruise, and we ate in the Royal Palace 2 nights. And the one night, it was the Royal Palace's main menu. The other night, it was actually pirate night. So it was a pirate-themed menu. And throughout the cruise ship, no matter which restaurant you ate at, everybody had the same pirate-themed menu. Now, there are some tips that I do want to share with you guys for dining aboard Disney Cruise Line. When it comes to the rotational dining, it is optional. So if you and your party look at the menu and you're thinking, I don't know what we're going to eat, or maybe someone in your party is feeling really tired and doesn't feel like going and eating there are other options for dining on the cruise ship. So you typically are going to have a buffet option. If you're on the Dream, it's going to be cabanas. That's also going to be open for dinner time. You're also going to typically have a grab and go sort of area as well. Once again, if you're on the Dream, it's going to be Flo's Cafe. And then you're also going to have in-room dining options, and then even adult-only dining options. So just be aware that you don't have to participate in the rotational dining, but it is available if you want to. Now, another thing you should be aware of is that when you are first booking your Disney cruise, they're going to ask you, when do you want to dine? So typically the dining times are around 5:45, and then the other time is, I would just round it off and say 8 o'clock. So typically it's like 6 and 8. Now, if you pick the earlier dining time, the 5:45, be aware that that is when all of the families and all of the children will be dining. So if you are an adult and you're not, too fond of, the crying and the just, sounds of life, I would say you definitely are going to want to participate in the later dining option, and be aware that when you dine also dictates when you see the evening show. So if you dine at 5:45, then that means that the show that you're going to see is going to be like that 8 o'clock show, and vice versa. If you have the later dinner, you're going to see this show earlier in the day around 6 o'clock. Now, Pirate Night just kind of throws a loop in everything. Everybody goes to the same show at the same time, but just keep that in mind. And something that I will say is for my family and I, we go to bed early and we get up early. So we did the earlier dining time, and I'm going to be honest, I really wasn't bothered by like the noise during the meals, but when we went to see the shows, it was a lot of crying throughout the shows and tantrums and things like that. So sometimes it was a little frustrating, I'll be honest and real here, just because I felt like it would like, you couldn't hear like what the person on stage was saying, because right next to you, Johnny was tired and was having a meltdown, and his mom should have probably taken him out, but she wanted to see the show. So here we are. So just keep that in mind that, you know, if you are an adult and you don't have little ones, you're probably going to want to do the later show. So just keep that in mind. If you're an adult and you don't have kids, you're probably going to want to participate in the later dining option. And be aware that you can change this. So when you first sign up and you book your cruise, let's say that you sign up for the earlier one and you change your mind and you want to do the later dining one, you can change later on. I also would encourage you in the app to put in any dietary restrictions. So that would be any food allergies, and then also any requests. So if you're a smaller party and you want to make sure that you have your own private table, also make sure to request that in your Disney Cruise Line app way before you board the ship. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that you can order any entree, any item from any rotational dining restaurant. So like I said, I was just on the Disney Dream. So let's say that I really enjoyed my meal at Animator's Palette. I can order that same meal at a different restaurant, such as the Enchanted Garden. And this is something that I didn't know until probably the second or third night on the cruise, and it made all the difference. So keep that in mind, that if you are doing the rotational dining, and let's just say you go to one of the restaurants and you're like, I don't really see anything that's really reaching out, you know, ask your waitstaff if you can have an item that you had at another restaurant. Everything comes out of the same kitchen, even though it's different restaurants. Also be aware that your waitstaff for dining, as well as your stateroom host, is with you for your entire length of stay. It's really nice because they begin to learn you, know the things that you like, know the things that you don't like. Our waitstaff was absolutely incredible. They would always have our drinks waiting for us at the table, and they even will make dining recommendations to you based upon what you want. So keep that in mind, that, you know, that's just one of the nice things, is that you kind of have this individualized attention, but also make sure to always talk to your waitstaff and treat them with respect, because you're not getting a new set. So if you get off to a rough start, just be aware they're going to be with you throughout your entire cruise experience. And also be aware that you can order as much as you want and literally all that you want. So if you want to try the pork chop, but you also want to try the salmon, you can get both. If you get the salmon and you're like, wow, this is delicious, like I need another, you can get another. I will tell you guys, I typically indulged, oh, it sounds so bad, in 2 desserts every single rotational dining, because I couldn't pick just one. They all sounded so good. So just keep that in mind, that you have that option. And then even after you leave the rotational dining, you can order room service every single night. I ordered room service every single night, and I have no regrets at all. And you can order room service for breakfast in the morning. It typically is a continental breakfast, and you'll write down on a little piece of paper the day before what you want, hang it outside your door, and your stateroom attendant will turn it in. You'll mark on that paper as well what time you want your continental breakfast delivered. And keep in mind, you can have, for our family, we would typically have like coffee and juice delivered in the morning, but then we would go down and have breakfast somewhere. And then we also did in-room dining at night. They have sandwiches, cookies and milk, all sorts of really nice things to round out the night. So one thing that no one should ever leave a Disney cruise saying is that they didn't have anything to eat or they didn't get enough to eat, because you will be spoiled by the amount of options available and how readily accessible all of the food and dining options are. One final thing I will say about dining is that there are drink stands where they have like soda products, and those are typically on the main decks or the pool decks. Now, I will warn you that those decks get very crowded, especially during shows, evening hours, and things like that. And they typically have little like small paper cups that you can use to get beverages. However, I did see a number of guests actually purchase like tumblers and travel bottles, kind of like if you've ever stayed at a Disney World resort and you get like a resort mug. Like those don't come with your cruise, but some people brought them. You could also buy them. So then that way, when they would go to those soda fountains, they could fill them up and they wouldn't have to go back. So I would encourage you to think about something like that, just so you don't have to visit those fountains so often, especially during peak busy hours. If you do room service, they do have drinks available, but those are at additional cost. So just keep that in mind. All right, so we have come full circle. Now, of course, we have to talk about the saddest part of any Disney cruise, and that is leaving. So something that you should be aware of, we talked about this a little bit before, is to make sure you have your ground transportation already set up before you're leaving. If you use Disney, they will have buses that will travel to and from the port to Miami or to Port Canaveral to take you to the airport. Typically on that last day, there isn't a specific, I would say necessarily time when you're supposed to be on the bus. They will just start the buses at a certain time, and then they'll tell you the last bus will depart at blank time. So you just want to make sure that you are on the bus by that time. You do have the option of letting Disney handle your bags, or you can keep them yourselves. If you tell Disney that you want them to handle your bags, they will give you a particular time when you can disembark from the boat. For my family and I, we chose to keep our luggage with us so that we could leave when we wanted to. And it worked out a lot better. We were able to eat breakfast, grab our luggage, get on the bus, and then get to the airport in plenty of time for our flight. So just kind of keep that in mind. What I will say about customs is that you are not allowed to bring open food back into the United States. So that means if you're on the cruise line and let's say you are eating breakfast and you have bacon and eggs, you can't take those bacon and eggs off the ship. But if you've purchased packaged Disney goods like Rice Krispie treats that are still in that original wrapper, those can go off the ship with you. But just be aware, you can't take like fresh food, fruits, things like that back to the continental United States. All right, guys. Well, I think we covered it all, but I'm sure that there could be other things that I didn't mention. So let me know in the comments below any tips, tricks, things you have to know before a Disney cruise that you would want to share with me and our fellow viewers out there. If you found this video helpful or entertaining, guys, please make sure to leave a thumbs up. It just helps me to know that this is content that you enjoy seeing. If you also found the content helpful, maybe consider subscribing, joining the family so you always stay up to date when I post. And I hope you guys had a great time. And if you are getting ready to leave on a Disney cruise, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful time. And I hope that these tips help you and your family to enjoy every single moment. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.